All right, gentlemen, I am back. I have another video for you. And I should say ladies and gentlemen, because some of these videos are going to be just about as much for the ladies as they are for the men. And this is going to be one of them. So I have this little clip. I got it from Modern Women Archive. I will put the link below. It's a great little channel. They do a wonderful job going out and getting all these clips off of, TikTok or whatever. And they do a good job. And I got one little piece out of this video that I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about two things. And the first part of it, I want to go ahead and take a look at. And then we'll come back and we'll discuss it for a moment.
Accepting that you are most likely going to be alone for the rest of your life is a really hard pill to swallow. And it's not even because there's anything wrong with me or that I am not deserving. I'm just tired. I've spent most of my life recovering from men who have caused so much trauma. My physical brain cannot handle anymore. It is always in survival mode. It is always in fight or flight mode. My brain has never fully recovered from the trauma that has been caused. I meet guys and I feel like I'm constantly looking for a reason to not trust them because I have never experienced a good man before. Like, I've never been in a good, healthy relationship. I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know what to look for. I don't know what is normal.
All right. So you saw the clip. So let's go over what's in the clip for the first section of what I want to talk about. Here's what I want to talk about in this case. I want to talk about a description, or at least part of the description, of what we mean when we say that a woman is damaged goods. So we like to throw that term around because it's easy and you get aggravated or frustrated, or you just don't want to actually enter into a conversation about it with some woman, and you just tell them, yeah, you're damaged goods. And you just throw it out there. And you just leave it out there like some sort of wet blanket, right? That's not adequate. That's just not adequate, guys. In fact, it's so inadequate that in my book, I put an entire chapter of what we mean when we say a woman is damaged goods. And she covers two of the subjects here. And I want to discuss them with you so that when you look at what a woman's telling you and you're listening to what she's saying, that you have something that you can come back and say, oh, so you went through this. So let's talk about those two things. The first one, if you'll notice, she talks a lot about having her heart broken. Why? Because she was Chad chasing. And because she was Chad chasing, Chads, they stay for as long as they feel like staying. They'll stay for a night. They'll stay for a month. They'll stay for 6 months. And then they'll move on. And you will, if you're a woman chasing them, get your heart broke. And you can't get your heart broke over and over again without taking some real emotional damage. And that's what she's talking about, is that she's had her heart broke a few times, and somewhere along the line, one of those stuck the knife just right in the right spot, and it broke her. So one of the things we talk about when we talk about being damaged goods is we talk specifically about having your heart broke, right? But she also talks about something else that I think you also want to know about and think about in terms of, it's not that you're damaged goods because I say so, but you're damaged goods because you've been through this. She talks a lot about being tired. Just being tired, being in survival mode, right? It's the law of diminishing returns. Chad chasing is the female version of alcoholism. It's the female version of drug use. It's the female version of gambling for those that aren't into it. And it's for the same reason. And there are videos out there talking about how, you go and you lose and you lose and you lose and you hit that win, and that win's big and it's so exciting and it floods your brain with dopamine. And it addicts you and you get hooked. But there's a flip side to that coin. If you look at people who have been addicted to heavy drugs, like heroin or cocaine or meth or whatever, they always go back to talking about the first hit, the first time they got high, the first time they got stoned, the first time, because that first time is fresh and it rocks their brain. That's why I tell you in my book that after a woman's had so many partners, it's really hard for her to settle down with somebody, because one of those first partners, those first few partners, is going to be her hit a crack. And she's never going to forget him, and no one else is ever going to live up to that. But on the other hand, then there becomes the law of diminishing returns. The next hit doesn't get you quite as high. And the next hit doesn't get you quite as high. And the next hit doesn't get you quite as high. And the reason that people go to rehab is that they end up being stuck with the addiction without the pleasure. And that's what's happened here. She could still Chad chase if she really thought she could get a Chad. But she doesn't get the high anymore. Now all she has is the addiction. The law of diminishing returns says that as you do this stuff over time, you get less and less and less pleasure in it. She's burned herself out. In my book, I describe it as you get into a relationship and you start up that circuit and you get the engine running and you pop the hood to your car and you reach down it and you grab the wires to the alternator and you rip them loose. And the car dies. And then you put the wires back and you start the car and you pop the hood and you rip the wires off again. Well, how many times do you think you have to do that before you start doing some damage? It's the same thing. It's the law of diminishing returns. Women don't quit Chad chasing just because they can't get Chad. They also quit Chad chasing because they no longer get the high out of the struggle bunny relationship. The struggle bunny doesn't make them happy anymore. You know what the problem with that is? When you reach that point, almost nothing makes you happy anymore. Cigarettes don't taste good. You don't care about food. It can make everything bland. And that's what she's facing. She's facing, looking at her life, and it's all gray. It's just all gray. So that's the first part of what I wanted to talk about with this little video. So let's take a look at the second part, because it's also important, and I want you to understand it too.
I've never experienced normal. How am I supposed to know? And now I'm 37, and every man that I meet is disappointing and doesn't add value to my life, doesn't make me happy, and I just don't want to settle anymore. How do I know if someone is the one? I mean, is there something wrong with me? I question it all the time, but I know that I'm just fucking traumatized. What does a loving man feel like? What does a healthy relationship feel like? What does it feel like when you have found your person? I've been in so many relationships, long relationships, and no one has ever added value to my life or made me feel like I was enough. And it makes me sad that I have never gotten to experience this. It genuinely makes me sad. But I just don't know if it actually exists. So I will probably be alone. And that scares me, but I am slowly accepting that this is probably my fate. And I need to learn to love myself, and I need to tell myself that that is enough.
All right, gentlemen. So you've seen the other part of her video that I want to talk about. And this goes back to, in my book, I describe women who are raised different ways. And she was raised in a lower culture. She was raised without having the presence of that strong, dedicated, involved father, who, as you've seen from videos I've already done, is an important thing, because you do more than give her a sense of confidence, but you also, give her a blueprint and an understanding, and teaching her about how to find a good male partner, a good husband, someone who will be there and do the right things with her. Find someone like me. Find someone with these traits. Don't wait until you're 35. Do this, right? Don't accept that boy. He's bad news. These are all inputs that fathers are supposed to put in. And you can tell by the second part of her video, she never got that. Because she plainly says, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. I don't know what a healthy man looks like. I can't say I've ever had that. How you were raised sets you up for how you'll live your early years in your adult life. But there's a caveat. There's a caveat to that. If you were not raised optimally, then you are going to do one of three things. One, you're going to say, this sucks. I need to figure out how to get the hell out of here. Two, you're going to give up and just be like, well, hell, this is all there is. And you're going to become Antifa or whatever, quiet quit, whatever it is. And you're just not going to try. Or three, you're just going to screw it up and make excuses, basically. Right? Which is kind of what you see here. Except for she kind of realizes, but she never takes that last step. See, that last step is, as an adult, you say, yeah, you know what? That was screwed up, and I'm not going back there. I have a relative who's literally posted on social media that I have gone out of my way and intentionally made sure my children didn't grow up the way I did. And it doesn't matter. And I know for a fact that this woman, her dad wasn't around when she was growing up because I was there. It's not just that she grew up that way. Is that she didn't recognize, she didn't look at it. She didn't figure out, okay, so how do I get out of this? You're not responsible for how you were raised. But if that's how you stay 10 years from now, that's your fault. That's not on anybody else. There's not a single man that was ever in her life who's responsible for that. She is, and she is alone. So if you like that, I hope you got something valuable out of it. Like, subscribe, share this, Get it to someone who would like to see it, needs to see it. And I will be back soon enough.